Welcome to my channel. Don't forget to like and subscribe. No one sat next to him until the human soldier sat down quietly. The hall stretched wider than most cities on Earth, carved into arches that shimmered faintly with alien metals no human scientist had yet named. Voices swelled and overlapped like waves, clinking of glasses and the scrape of utensils echoing under the vaulted ceiling. The long tables filled with soldiers, diplomats, and restless recruits resembled the chaotic order of a marketplace rather than a disciplined assembly. Yet, for all the noise and the crowd, a strange emptiness lingered at the far edge of the room, as though someone had carved out a hollow in the middle of life itself. She sat there, back straight, posture like stone. Her hair fell over her shoulders in dark sheets, catching glimmers of the overhead light. The long, delicate ears curving away from her head marked her apart more clearly than the icy glances of her kind. No one dared to sit beside her. No one dared to brush even the corner of her sleeve. Her presence had become the unspoken boundary of the hall, this far and no farther, until the human walked in. He moved stiffly, the way soldiers do when they've been told for the 1000th time to look professional, while their boots still tracked mud from some forgotten trench. He paused at the crowded rows, glanced at the few empty chairs squeezed between gossiping squads, and then at the solitary seat by the feared alien woman. His face barely shifted, but something about his decision carried the casual recklessness of someone who had once jumped from orbit with only half a parachute. He walked the length of the hall, pulled out the chair, and sat down. The sound was nothing, just wood on stone, but it cracked through the hall like a weapon discharging. Conversations faltered. Someone coughed loudly, as if to fill the silence, but no one laughed. Eyes darted, heads tilted. The human didn't seem to notice, or worse, didn't care. He unfolded his napkin with unnecessary precision, glanced at the plate before him, and muttered, "Huh, at least it's not moving this time." The alien woman's chest tightened. She had not spoken to anyone here in months, perhaps years, depending on whether time and silence still counted the same. She turned her head slightly, unsure if words would emerge or if they had rusted inside her throat. Why would you choose me?" she asked softly, the words trembling as though they had been stolen from another's voice. He looked at her. His expression remained unreadable, though his brows knit as if she had just asked why he preferred oxygen over vacuum. Then he shrugged. "Every other chair's sticky." For a moment, she stared. The words clattered in her head, like drop tools. Sticky. That was his reason. She blinked once, twice, and then, unexpected, unbidden, something burst from her chest. A laugh. It was brittle at first, sharp as broken glass, but it was laughter nonetheless. She clapped a hand over her mouth, ears twitching violently. Around the hall, people froze, astonished. The soldier leaned back, satisfied, as though he had just won a small but important victory. "See, works every time," he murmured. "Works," she managed, her voice hushed. "Human joke deployment. We're trained for it. Cuts through the tension like a plasma torch. Might be lethal in the wrong hands, but don't worry, I'm certified." He tapped his chest as though to flash an invisible badge. She nearly laughed again, though she forced it down, cheeks heating. The others around them whispered more furiously, but their voices no longer pierced her like needles. For once, she wasn't watching them. She was watching him. He picked up his fork, stabbed at the grayish stew in front of him, and frowned. "This stuff, is it supposed to glow? Because on my planet, when food glows, that's usually a bad sign." "It's nutrient-rich," she said, trying not to smile. "Nutrient-rich," he repeated solemnly. Translation questionable. He sniffed the bowl, tilted his head, and then added, "If I don't make it back from dinner, tell command it was bravery, not indigestion." Her laugh slipped free again. She tried to cover it with a cough, but it echoed, soft and strange, in the vaulted hall. It was the first sound of hers anyone had heard in far too long. The soldier chewed and made a face of exaggerated betrayal. "Yup, definitely lethal. Well, nice knowing you. If I keel over, I expect you to avenge me. You look like you can throw lightning or something." Her eyes flickered with surprise. "How did you?" "Lucky guess," he said quickly, stuffing another bite into his mouth, as though daring the stew to kill him on the spot. You've got that look. You know, the I could fry this old place, but I'm being polite about it vibe. My grandma had the same look. Except, well, she mostly used it for overcooked pasta. This time, her laughter shook her shoulders. It startled her as much as it startled the onlookers. She wasn't sure what stunned her more, that he sat beside her when no one else would, or that he treated her not with fear, not even with caution, but with humor so absurd it left no room for isolation. Somewhere, in the great hall where silence had once wrapped itself around her like a cage, the first cracks formed, and through those cracks, light seeped in. The human kept coming back. Morning briefings, midday meals, evening rations that tasted more like punishment than sustenance. There he was, dropping into the empty seat beside her, as if it had been reserved with his name etched into it. The first day, it drew silence. The second, whispers. By the third, there were wagers circulating through the hall about how long before he either burst into flames, vanished mysteriously, or was transferred to a remote outpost for the crime of sitting next to her. He didn't seem to notice. Or, more likely, he noticed and enjoyed it. He leaned in during one meal, lowering his voice as though imparting a classified secret. You realize, don't you, that you're ruining my reputation? She raised a brow, cautious. Reputation? Yeah, he said gravely, stabbing at his rations. Back home, I'm known as a man of great mystery and allure. Sitting here with you, I look approachable. Next thing you know, people will be asking me to help fix vending machines. Do you know what kind of hell that is? Her ears twitched despite her effort to remain composed. I didn't think humans had vending machines in military installations. They don't, he said, gesturing with his fork like a lecturer. They have their spiritual cousins. They eat your credits and spit out disappointment. And someone has to wrestle them. Usually me. This earned him a small, sharp laugh. She tried to suppress it, but the sound slipped anyway. Each time she laughed, she startled herself, as if her own voice had betrayed her. Still, questions burned beneath her skin. She hadn't forgotten the weight of the stares, the whispered words. Do you not care what they think? She asked one evening, when the hall was quieter and most eyes had grown bored of staring. He chewed thoughtfully, then shrugged. If I cared what they thought, I wouldn't have joined the army. Half of them think I'm reckless. The other half think I'm insane. They're both right, but still. He winked. Besides, I figure sitting next to you increases my life expectancy. Her lips parted in surprise. You believe I protect you? No, he said, grinning. I believe no one's going to pick a fight with me when you're sitting here, looking like you could erase them with a raised eyebrow. It's practical. That nearly doubled her over. She covered her mouth, her laugh muffled but undeniable. He looked smug, as if this had been his mission all along. Their conversations became a rhythm. He told her about Earth in broad strokes, about cities that glittered at night, about oceans that stretched beyond sight, about an old woman on his street who claimed cats were secretly galactic spies. She countered with fragments of her own world. Not everything, never everything, but glimpses. Forests of luminous trees, whose leaves hummed with energy. Storms that sang in frequencies only her kind could hear. He listened intently, even when he didn't understand. Once he asked, So why do they avoid you? Did you sneeze and accidentally vaporize someone? Her spoon paused halfway to her lips. His words were ridiculous, but they brushed too close to truth. A shadow crossed her eyes. He noticed, instantly regretting the jab. I'm joking, he said quickly. Mostly. I mean, if you did, it was probably an accident. Everyone sneezes. Some people just sneeze harder. Her laughter was shaky, but it came. She found herself telling him, cautiously, about the energy that lived under her skin, the power that flared when her emotions slipped loose. How once, as a child, she had frightened even her own parents. She spoke lightly, as though it were a story from someone else's life. He listened without interrupting, then nodded seriously. Sounds rough, he said. Then, after a pause, but also incredibly useful if we ever need to cook marshmallows. Marshmallows. Human delicacy, he said solemnly. We burn them on sticks. If you can weaponize lightning, we'll never need matches again. You'd be a hero. The word lingered between them. Hero. She had been called many things, none of them kind. Her chest tightened, though this time not from fear. The hall no longer seemed quite as empty. When others glanced her way now, she felt their hesitation soften, curiosity edging out fear. Some even dared to nod at her when they passed. It was small, but it was new. And still, every time she turned her head, the human was there, grinning like someone who had just dared gravity to let go. One night, as the lights dimmed and the hall quieted, she whispered, "Why do you stay?" He pretended to think deeply, scratching his chin. "Because you laugh at my jokes. No one else here does. I'm not giving that up." Her laughter rose again, warm and unguarded, echoing against the vaulted walls. For the first time in years, she was no longer laughing alone. The announcement came during morning assembly, the kind where commanders liked to pretend everyone was listening, while half the room silently plotted excuses to avoid extra duty. Orders scrolled across the holoscreen, glowing letters cold and final. Joint maneuvers, human regiment with alien battalion, immediate deployment. The hall buzzed with unease. No one said her name, but eyes flicked in her direction, sharp as blades. She sat motionless, ears twitching, while beside her the human soldier leaned close and whispered, "Relax. At least it's not karaoke night." Her mouth twitched despite herself. "Karaoke, human torture ritual," he said. "You scream songs into a microphone while everyone pretends they're not suffering. Joint maneuvers are probably easier." She doubted it. When the assembly dismissed, voices rose in speculation. Would she join? Could she be trusted in a simulated battlefield? Whispers tangled around her like vines. He ignored them, sauntering out as though the orders applied to everyone but him. She followed, not because she trusted the mission, but because he made it look almost bearable. On the training field, metal drones hovered in swarms, glowing eyes pulsing like angry stars. Terrain shifted with each round, the ground reconfiguring itself into mountains, valleys, and fractured plains. Soldiers muttered nervously as the simulation flickered to life. The human grinned at her. "Remember, if you blow up the field, make it look like an accident." She rolled her eyes. "And if you get shot?" "I'll fake a dramatic death. I've practiced. Want to see?" He collapsed into a limp sprawl so convincingly that one of the alien recruits gasped. He cracked an eye open and whispered, "Pretty good, right?" Her laugh rang sharp and clear, cutting through the tension. Then the siren blared, and the simulation surged forward. At first, she held back. Her squad advanced, rifles flashing, boots pounding against the shifting terrain. She moved among them, quiet as shadow, trying not to draw notice. But the drones came faster, harder, their coordinated swarms breaking the formation apart. Shouts rose. Panic spread. And then, without meaning to, she let the energy slip. It burst from her in a flash, blue-white arcs of lightning ripping across the air. Drones shrieked as systems fried, metal shells raining down like scorched rain. Silence followed, stunned and brittle. Every eye turned to her. She froze, chest tight, expecting fear, suspicion, the same old rejection. The human broke it first. He clapped, slow and loud. "Beautiful. 10 out of 10. If you do weddings, I'm hiring you." Her ears flushed with heat, but laughter bubbled from her throat before she could stop it. Others joined hesitantly, chuckling, muttering. The fear wasn't gone, but it had cracked, thinned. They pushed forward again, side by side. She fought with precision, arcs of power cutting drones from the air. He covered her flank, rifle steady, commentary absurd. "Incoming left. Oh, never mind. You vaporized it. Remind me never to annoy you during dinner." By the time the siren wailed to signal the end, the field was littered with drone fragments, and the squad stood victorious. Soldiers stared at her with something new. Caution, yes, but also awe. Later, in the mess hall, he dropped into his usual seat beside her, grinning. "So, turns out you're terrifying and useful. I feel safer already." She smirked faintly. "And you? What did you contribute?" He thought for a moment. "Moral support. Also, I didn't die dramatically, though I was tempted." She laughed so hard her sides ached. Around them, others glanced over. Some even smiled at her, tentative but genuine. For the first time, she felt the barrier between herself and the world thinning. She had not vanished into silence. She had not been shunned into shadow. She had stood, fought, and laughed, and the human had made sure no one forgot it. When the night quieted and the hall emptied, she leaned toward him and whispered, "Thank you." He waved it off. "Don't thank me. I'm selfish. I just wanted to be on the winning team." Her laugh rose again, warm, steady, unafraid. Rumor spread faster than fire in oxygen-rich air. The simulation had barely ended when whispers leapt from barracks to command decks. The outcast had unleashed her power. The human had sat laughing beside her, and together they had shredded the drones like paper. Some claimed it was a fluke. Others swore it was a sign of impending doom, and a few muttered that perhaps doom itself was overdue. The tension might have grown unbearable, but the human soldier seemed immune. He appeared at her side as always, balancing a tray of food that looked more hazardous than most weapons, and announced, "Good news. No karaoke tonight." She tilted her head, amused. "That is your measure of fortune." "Absolutely. Fleet Command could tell us we're all doomed, and I'd still count it as a win if I don't have to sing in public." As if summoned, the overhead comm crackled with urgency. "Attention all personnel. Enemy fleet detected at system perimeter. Stand by for deployment." He stared at the ceiling. "You see, classic timing. The universe heard me." Orders swept through the hall. The human regiment and alien battalion were to form a joint reconnaissance unit. She knew what it meant before anyone said it. Her name would be called. And it was. When she volunteered, the silence was thick, but his voice broke it instantly. "She's going? Then I'm going too." They boarded a small scout vessel, its hull humming with borrowed energy. As the door sealed, he strapped himself into the seat beside her, muttering, "If this ship starts singing karaoke, I'm ejecting." The stars opened before them, endless and cold. Sensors lit up with enemy signals, clusters of warships lurking at the edge of darkness. Her pulse quickened. She had dreamed of space as freedom once, but now it loomed heavy, filled with danger and history she could not escape. He noticed. "Relax. Worst-case scenario, we die in a blaze of glory. Best-case scenario, we live to complain about the food again." She exhaled a shaky laugh. "That is not reassuring. It's not supposed to be. Reassurance is overrated. I prefer distraction." He leaned closer. "For example, on Earth, people argue about pineapple on pizza more fiercely than about politics. Entire friendships have ended over it." Her ears flicked. "Pineapple on bread, with cheese and tomato sauce. Beautiful chaos." She laughed, softly at first, then stronger. The sound filled the cramped cabin, easing the sharp edge of fear. The vessel drifted closer to the enemy line, cloaked in sensor-jamming fields. She felt the static of her own energy pressing against her skin, begging release. She remembered childhood, the look in her parents' eyes, the years of silence. But here now, beside him, the fear did not consume her. He tapped the console. "Enemy beacon up ahead. Big, nasty, probably important. You thinking what I'm thinking?" "I doubt it." "I'm thinking. We blow it up, then tell command it was an accident. Saves us paperwork." She laughed so hard her hand shook. Then, without hesitation, she extended her energy into the console. Light flared through the circuits, and the ship's weapons ignited. The beacon shattered, shards scattering into the void. Enemy signals spiked instantly, alarms blaring. But in that chaos there was triumph. He whooped. "Yes. Beautiful accident. No jury would convict us." Enemy fighters swarmed. She unleashed her power again, arcs of light lancing through space, tearing ships apart. He fired alongside her, his shots precise, his curses creative. The battle spun into chaos, but together they cut through it, laughter and fire side by side. When at last the enemy retreated, their vessel drifted among wreckage. He leaned back, grinning. "Well, either we're heroes, or we're in deep trouble. I vote heroes." Her chest ached, but not from fear. For the first time, she felt the word might belong to her. They returned to the hall as if nothing had changed, but everything had. The doors opened, the usual clatter of trays and chatter filling the air, yet the silence that once followed her steps was gone. Soldiers looked up, eyes wide, some nodding, some whispering not with fear, but with awe. The human walked beside her with the same casual stride, as though they had not just destroyed an enemy beacon and scattered half a fleet. He dropped into his usual chair, stretched his arms, and said, "Well, that was fun. Same time tomorrow." She sat slowly, every movement weighted with the awareness of 100 eyes. Once, she would have frozen, ears stiff, heart locked tight. Now, she let herself smile. "Tomorrow," she said softly, "I hope for less destruction." He shrugged. "Depends on the food. Could go either way." The others didn't keep their distance this time. A young recruit approached hesitantly, tray trembling in his hands. May I sit here?" Her chest tightened. Once, that question would never have been asked. She nodded. He sat, nervous but determined. Then another came, and another, until the empty space that had surrounded her for years began to fill. The invisible barrier crumbled, not in fire or fury, but in quiet courage. The human leaned toward her, whispering, "See? I told you. You're the safest seat in the room." She smirked. "And you? I'm the comic relief. Every hero needs one." He raised his fork like a toast. "To unlikely partnerships." She raised hers in return, laughter spilling free, light and unguarded. Later, when command summoned them, there was no condemnation. The reports of their mission had spread too far, the evidence too strong. The enemy had been driven back, the fleet given time, and for once her power had not been branded as curse but as salvation. The commander's voice was rough but steady. "You've done well. Both of you." Her ears twitched, the words sinking deep. Done well. She had not heard those words in years. She bowed her head, not in shame this time, but in acknowledgement. Walking back, the human nudged her shoulder. "So, you're officially terrifying and officially useful. I'd say that makes you the galaxy's most employable person." She laughed, shaking her head. "And you? Still reckless. Still insane. Still certified in joke deployment. Some things don't change." But she had. She knew it. The silence that had once imprisoned her no longer ruled. Where there had been fear, there was now laughter. Where there had been isolation, there was now presence, his and others. She no longer sat alone at the edge of the hall. That evening, as the noise of the hall swirled around them, she leaned close and whispered, "You never answered me. That first day. Why did you choose me?" He pretended to think deeply, eyes narrowing, lips twitching. "Well, sticky chairs, mostly. But also," his voice softened, "because you looked like you needed someone to sit down." Her throat tightened, laughter and tears tangling together until she could not tell them apart. She reached out, resting her hand lightly on his. "Thank you," she whispered. He grinned, squeezing her fingers. "Don't thank me yet. You still haven't tried pineapple pizza." Her laugh rang out, clear and unbroken, echoing across the hall where no one dared to silence it anymore. And in that sound she knew. She was no longer alone. The end.